Okay, I think that has been enough time for people to connect to audio. So, hello everyone, and welcome to today's session, Start Your Term with GC Students, presented by GC Students and the Federal Youth Network. My name is Lauren Morkey, and I'm very excited to be with you all today to have a chance to talk about this topic. Joining me today are Justine Reynolds from the Federal Youth Network and Degan God with the Public Service Commission. So, before we get started, I thought I'd introduce myself a bit. So, as I said, my name is Lauren. I started with the public service in, I think, 2022. So, I was working as an FSWEP student while I was in university, and I started with Indigenous Services Canada in the Atlantic Regional Office. After graduating, I was given the opportunity to be bridged in, and I continued working with Indigenous Services Canada for 2 years after that. And then I joined the Federal Youth Network. So I'm now part of the Federal Youth Network as a program assistant. So I work on tons of different things like partnership facilitation, key stakeholder outreach, event management, program development, and a bunch of other things, which is super fun. And outside of that, I love volleyball. I'm a coach and referee and a retired player. So, yeah, those are just a few little things about me. Before getting into the instructions for the event, I did want to recognize that I'm joining you today from Mi'kma'ki, the unceded ancestral territory of the Ilnu people. It is also now known as Prince Edward Island, so very happy to be joining you all today. And I would also like to recognize that you are all joining us from various different parts of Canada. And I would like to give you a moment to reflect on where you're joining us from. There's a link in the chat that's being sent where you can check where what territory you might be on right now. So, yeah. Now we will get into some instructions for today. So please note that the session is only going to be in English today. There is a French session happening simultaneously right now. So if you would like to go to that, you can go on our GC Wiki page and find the link for that session there. Both sessions are being recorded and they will be available on our YouTube channel after the event. So if you want to check things out or you have to step away after a little bit, there will be a recording and you can review later. Please keep an eye out on our wiki page, both the GC Students wiki page and the Federal Youth Network's wiki pages, because we have tons of events coming up and we share all of our information through there. Oh, my mouth is dry. All right, that's better. As you may have noticed, your microphones and cameras are deactivated, so the chat will not be functional for participants today, but we will use it to send resources out. Um, Alternatively, we encourage you to use the Q&A function here on Zoom, where you can send your questions, and there will be a Q&A session at the end of the event where all of your questions can be answered. All right. So please note that, as I said, it will be recorded, and all of our information, such as this presentation, all the helpful links that we tend to send out to students, can be found on our GC Wiki page, as we said. So you can scan the QR code, or you can just go on any browser and put in GC Wiki, and then the Federal Youth Networks is right on the front page there. You can also search up GC students, and you can find the wiki page there. We have tons of fun information and resources there. All right. So, just a bit of a quick disclaimer. So, in case anyone's wondering who this content might be for, so it is for students working in the Government of Canada, so people who are a part of FSWEP, co-op, or the research affiliate program. If you are a student under a casual term or indeterminate contract, you can validate the information through your collective agreement. Um, and if you are looking for information on finding a student job in the Government of Canada, you can visit that link. Like I said, all of the links that are in the presentation can be found on the GC Wiki site. So yeah, if you don't fall into any of those points, that's okay. We still appreciate that you're here, and this session is informative for anyone. So on to the next slide there. So now we have our learning objectives. So our first section of the presentation is going to be on student onboarding in the Government of Canada. Our second section will be take advantage of your student job. Our third section will be Build Your Network. Our fourth section will be Networking, Resources, and Opportunities. And then we'll end off the session with announcements, where we'll just share some fun information with you all. And then we'll move into our Q&A portion of the event. So that is what we will be learning about today. So I would like to pass it off to our first speaker, Degan God, to present herself and get started on the content. Thank you,
Thanks.
everyone.
Thanks so much, Lauren. Hi, everyone. My name is Degan, and I've been in the public service for 14 years. I started my career as a student, like many of you. I started working as a co-op student from the University of Ottawa, and since then, I've occupied various positions from administration, communications, policy, human resources. Um, and finally, I've spent most of my career in human resources, working in employment equity, mental health and wellness, diversity and inclusion, disability management, and most recently, recruitment. I'm currently a senior advisor at the Public Service Commission of Canada. And I'm really looking forward to sharing information with you to make the most out of your student career as well as beyond. So if we go to the next slide. So whether this is your first work term or you're coming back for another one, it's always a good idea to have updated list of resources and tools to help that are available to help you succeed. So we'll go through some key resources to support your onboarding in the Government of Canada. So if we go to the next slide, as a new student, it often can feel overwhelming to try to figure out where to start. And this slide highlights a few key resources that you can return to throughout your term. You can click the QR code on the screen. Also, it's available in the presentation that was sent out by email. You can access the GC Students Wiki page, which has detailed information on the onboarding resources. Your department also may have a list of onboarding tools or checklists available for you to access. You'll see a link here on the conditions of employment and compensation for student workers. These are important as you'll find a way to learn about your rights as well as your responsibilities and what you can expect in terms of pay and working conditions. So you don't have to go through all this at once. Think of it as like a reference tool that you can come back to as questions come up during your turn. Knowing where to find reliable information early on will help you feel more confident to be able to make the most out of your student experience. So the next slide, a bit of background on the Federal Youth Network. So the GC Students is under the umbrella of the Federal Youth Network, which is a national network for young and new federal public servants. The network plans so many great events around career development and learning and mentorship and leadership throughout the year, both virtually and in person, and across the country. And a few examples are the most recent Career Bootcamp series, Speed Mentorship, and then there's Learning series as well. So take advantage of these free tools, register for these events as it's a great way to meet new people outside of your team as well as your department. And you could also learn about different career paths in the public service. Their YouTube pages or their YouTube channel is also another valuable resource. It has many recordings of past sessions that you can listen to on your own time. Finn also connects you with other youth networks in your province or region, which can be helpful in building some of those local connections. So make sure you learn about some of those networks available. And overall, Finn, the Federal Youth Network, is a great resource to stay engaged, informed, and connected during your time as a student and beyond. In the next slide, GC Students specifically is that dedicated community for students. So it is a resource and a community created just for you. And we're here to help you connect, learn, and access career supports that you may need. Through GC Students, you can find learning resources like today's event. You can attend a welcome event, networking opportunities, and just general information that you can use in your toolbox to help you succeed in your federal work student experience and beyond that in your career. The wiki page will include key information. And it'll be tailored and detailed. So you can find a section, for example, on pay and benefits, networking, preparing for the end of your student contract. All these are resources that are at your fingertips, available to help support you throughout your work term. And then lastly, follow us on social media and sign up for the newsletter so you don't miss any new opportunities or important updates. Next slide. So how can you take advantage of your student job? You may be wondering how to make the most out of your experience. So if you go to the next slide, we'll share some practical tips on helping you grow professionally and setting yourself up for what comes next. And a key question that comes up oftentimes, you're already here, you already joined the public service, but what are some of the benefits for building your career in the government of Canada and not just seeing it as a job, seeing it as a career? So student employment is an exciting opportunity. You'll have the opportunity to contribute to how the government serves people across the country. The public service isn't just about, you're a part of that mission. You're in that space of making real impactful change. Your contributions, whether you see it today or not, help support programs and services that Canadians rely on a daily basis. And oftentimes we refer to the government of Canada as one employer, thousands of opportunities, right? And the reason for this is the job opportunities offer a wide range of experiences in different fields. You can use you can use myself as an example, right? I've worked for 14 years in various roles, and I didn't find my niche until after I graduated. So you can work in policy or science or finance, communications, health, any job you can think of, it most likely exists in the government of Canada. And these roles don't all look the same, right? You might work in different work environments, including a lab, a national park, a correctional facility, airports. There's a distinct variety and diversity in the types of jobs and work environments available in the public service. So student employment is a great way. You're in a great position to explore your interests, try to discover the skills, where your skills best fit, develop new skills. Whether you're passionate about social justice, innovation, or environmental stewardship, research, any other field, there are opportunities to grow in all these different directions. And these roles will help test your interests in a real work environment. So on this screen too, some of the opportunities are, as well as, if once you have your first student job with the government of Canada, it is easier for a hiring manager to be able to rehire you. So you're able to use that experience on your resume to solicit other networking opportunities and solicit new jobs. So if we go to the next slide, what are some additional benefits? So the federal public service offers competitive and transparent pay scales. So you're able to look up pay rates for students on the Treasury Board website. There's opportunities for learning and development because you're participating in today's session, for example. And once you've successfully completed your term, it can also make future opportunities easier to access. So like I was saying, being rehired as a student is easier once you've completed a work term. It also makes future opportunities easier as well, in the sense there's a term called student bridging. So once you do graduate, a manager is able to onboard you using a non-advertised process. And that's only possible if you've completed a work term with the Government of Canada previously. And finally, student employment takes place in respectful and inclusive work culture supported by strong benefits and a commitment to work-life balance. Lastly, I did forget to mention there's benefits related to the pension, as well as health and dental benefits if your student term is greater than 6 months of continuous employment and you've worked at least 12 hours per week. So you can start contributing to your pension fund, as well as start receiving health and dental benefits as well. So if we go to the next slide, we will start with our first poll question. So curious to find out how many of you all work in your current field of study, as well as if you did know or didn't know about what student workers have access to some of these GC benefits. So there's no right answer. We're just trying to gauge, a general understanding of some of the responses. Okay. And if we go to the next slide, I will now turn it over to Justine to present herself and lead us to the next part of our session.
Hello, everyone. I'm Justine. Nice to be with you all today. Thank you so much for joining. It's lovely to see that you're taking your career in your own hands and looking to see what you can learn and how you can improve yourself. So kudos to all of you for taking the time to be here today. We want to make this as informative and helpful as possible to you. So please interact with us and ask your questions, and we will do our best to send you in the right direction for the information that you need. I'm happy to be presenting with Lauren and Degan. They're both wonderful. Degan, I didn't realize we were very much on the same path and journey. We both studied at Ottawa U and have been in the public service for 14 years. Crazy. Time flies. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. I was just saying, give me one moment.
That is okay, Justine. Take your time. So I do know that our next section is build your network. I'm gonna let Justine take that one because she is one of the best networkers that I have ever met. She's so friendly and kind, and even just how she opened up there with her introduction, it was very kind. Just, hi, I'm Justine, and it immediately makes people nice and calm and receptive to whatever she's trying to say. And that's really helpful when you're trying to work on building your network. It's kind of hard to work on, am I coming off? Like, I don't know. I know personally I'm newer to the federal public service and I'm a little nervous about how people perceive me sometimes. So sometimes I'm a little nervous to say hi and just put myself right out there. But Justine has been a really good mentor in that way for me. And she's kind of showed me that you don't necessarily need to be that kind of spooked to just go for it and be friendly and work on building your network. I'll pass it back to Justine. I think she's made it through the coughing.
That never happens. And then, of course, leave it to today for something like that to happen. It's always our luck. Apologies. Totally. And thanks, Lauren, for your kind words. That's so sweet of you. I was just about to say that I joined as a student, would have been in around 2012 was my first co-op work term around that time from U Ottawa. I studied psychology and sociology at the University of Ottawa. And there was a great co-op program offered through that bachelor's degree. So some of you may be on a co-op term right now, FSWEP, other student mechanisms. It's fantastic. It's the reason I'm in the government. It's the reason I met so many wonderful people, and the reason that I learned that the government was an amazing place to work where you can really, really make a difference for Canadians. I recall working at Correctional Services Canada. That was my first co-op work term. I thought that was going to be my job forever. I was so happy and so passionate about the work. I studied several criminology courses, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I have a job in my field of study. This is all I need. And I thought I was truly set for life at that point. So it was so nice to see many other students who are passionate about the work they're doing as well. But just reflecting a bit that you may think you want to do something at the beginning of your career, and it can totally change when you meet new people, have mentors, see other places within the government. It can absolutely change, and it will change throughout your career. So keep an open mind and explore other avenues, and it maybe doesn't have to be exactly what you studied in school. So I currently work as senior advisor with the Federal Youth Network. I've been with the FIN team for over 2 years now. And sadly, on April 1st, I will be going back to my home department of Infrastructure Canada, where I'll be working in the Deputy Minister's office. I say sadly because I truly love the work that Finn does. And I am excited to go back to my home team, but very passionate about the work we do here at Finn. I also lead, as per my bio, also lead the mentorship community of practice and the Take Me With You community of practice. Both are avenues that I suggest that you take a little bit of a look into and explore. They're ways that you can get involved outside of your day-to-day work. We will talk about mentorship a little bit later, and I'll make sure we have a bit of time to talk about the Take Me With You initiative as well. It's similar to mentoring, but more of a shadow learning opportunity. So just wanted to mention that. Let's move into our content here. So like Lauren said, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about building your network and how you can do that with confidence. Over time, you'll be able to build a solid network. I'm thankful for being with the Finn team as we get to meet colleagues from across Canada. There's not many departments and agencies where you really get to meet people from all over. There are some, absolutely, and if that's something that you're looking to do, there's many jobs out there that are available to you, but the Finn team has been the one in my career where I've been able to meet the most amount of people, make the most amount of connections, and not just within my office in Ottawa, but within and across Canada, which is really cool. So how do we stand out and build your network? You want to build your network through standing out or having an impression on someone that you meet, right? When we all meet people, we have a lasting impression that we take away from that, even if it's a quick interaction in the hallway, at the water cooler, in the lunchroom, whatever it is. Even if we say we aren't passing judgment, we all do. We're all innately human, and we all have something to take away from every interaction that we have. So we want you to just be cautious of that when you're interacting with colleagues and professionals in the workplace. Think about how you're coming across and how they may remember that interaction and have an impression of you. So some tips to stand out and make a good impression. Be professional. This one's number one, absolutely. We're in a professional environment, a professional workplace. We want to have a good impression on those that we're working with. And it's not just for those more senior, it's for our colleagues as well. We want to treat everyone fairly, respectfully, and in a professional manner. Sorry. So some ways to do this: follow work schedules, dress appropriately, and have a professional attitude. You're allowed to be yourself. We want you to be yourself, but just have a little bit of an angel on your shoulder, where if you think something feels a little bit inappropriate, it might be. So try and consider an alternative route if needed. Number two, be motivated, enthusiastic. Be curious and ask relevant questions. Get involved in your tasks. There's a very obvious difference between being a bit passive and being more active and engaged, right? You can ask questions. Instead of sitting in the meeting quietly, you might want to ask some questions. Show that you're engaged. Don't be on your phone, for example, or other distractions. Make sure that you're actively showing that you're listening and that you care. Be proactive and show initiative. Look for opportunities to contribute more. Offer constructive ideas and suggestions. Be willing to take on additional responsibilities. So this takes the being engaged a little bit further and it allows you to contribute to the team. So if in a team meeting, they're asking, can anyone help out with this? I'm feeling really stressed this week. I could use some help on this task. If you have the capacity, don't overstretch yourself or anything. If you have the capacity, feel free to raise your hand. Help out colleagues, help out in other projects that you weren't assigned to see if they need help, and reduce the workload for others around you. And hopefully the favor will be returned and they'll do the same for you. That's how we build relationships. That's how we build trust with our colleagues. Communicate effectively. Be clear and concise in your written and verbal communications. Listen actively in meetings and discussions. So communication is a two-way street. It's not just about communicating with the proper terminology and being clear, but it's also about listening and remembering things that were said, bringing them up later, showing that you're actively listening. There's a lot that goes into communication. We have a whole presentation and workshop just on effective communication, so it can really be unpacked quite a bit. But starting out with things that you can manage as some first steps will be just learning how to communicate clearly explain your needs too. If you need to have a conversation with your manager, don't be shy to do that. They are there for you, and that's their role, is to listen to what you need or any comments or feedback that you have. So don't be shy to share anything with your manager. Number 5, take care of your work. Be thorough, accurate in all assigned tasks, meet deadlines, and check your work for errors. It goes a long, long way if your emails are being sent without spelling errors, common errors, any mistakes, time of day it's sent, things like that. Like, make sure you're doing a thorough check on your work before it's sent to management. They will appreciate more than you know that if it's sent in a professional in a professional way and in a thorough way that shows that you looked at your work, that you care, that you put effort into it. It goes a long way in your lasting impression. Number 6, develop your skills and knowledge. There is a lot that you can do, just like you're doing today, to attend sessions, workshops, learning sessions on things that you may be able to improve in your own area. So French training, language training, resume building, interview skills, even just coffee chats are super valuable. Learning from what others do in their day-to-day work. That can go a long way. It will allow you to build your network and learn more about the organization. And then lastly, build professional relationships. So keep in touch with those that you meet. LinkedIn is a fantastic way to do this. We always promote LinkedIn as a Fin team. It's a very, very valuable tool to be able to make connections and keep in touch with those connections. So when you meet someone, instead of sharing each other's number like you would with a friend at a party or something, with LinkedIn, it's a great way to make a connection in a professional way. You can follow their journey if they're posting regularly, or vice versa. If you are, follow along people's professional journey, congratulate them on a certification that they had. There's low touch, easy ways to stay connected with people. And it doesn't mean you have to always go for a coffee with them every 2 weeks. It can just be checking in. Hey, how's it going? I heard your department was going through some changes. How are you feeling today? Or congratulations on that course. I saw your post about that. Simple ways to stay in touch with colleagues that we meet professionally without causing a huge burden on our time or on our schedule. Okay, we just threw so much at you, but I hope that was helpful. I'm looking for a student job in my field of study. Where should I start my research? This is a huge loaded question. So, of course, networking is a great way to do that. Talk to your manager. If you're interested in staying on your team, let them know. It's very important that they know your interests and that you're eager to stay on. If they don't necessarily know what you're looking for, what your priorities are, and what your vision is, they can't help you as much. So don't hesitate to let your management know and let your team know that you are interested in staying on with them. So networking is one. Informing your management of your interests is another. Doing your own research. So there's various ways to explore the Government of Canada. LinkedIn, follow along people in areas that you are interested in. Check out what jobs are available. There's GEDS to explore. GEDS is the Government of Canada Electronic Information System. I believe I'm butchering the title, but it's GEDS. And it's an electronic platform to see where people are in their contact information. So you can always explore that. If you're looking for a job in policy, check out the policy sectors within different departments and so on. So different avenues to do your research. Ask for advice from colleagues that are working in an area that you're interested in. Maybe they can put you in touch and have coffee with someone who's working in that area. So you can learn a bit more about what they do, maybe make some connections there, so on and so forth. And attending learning events and getting involved with communities. So communities are groups throughout the Government of Canada for a specific cohort. For example, Federal Youth Network is for young professionals and emerging leaders, although we don't allow anyone to not come to our programming because of their years of service, but it's intended for those starting out in their career and emerging leaders. But you can attend events. That's where you meet people. If you're attending an event in person, that's where you're going to meet colleagues who are in similar situations as you. Or if you join a virtual session, you can make connections through LinkedIn and connect with those people after. So attending learning sessions, getting involved in the communities is a fantastic way to expand your network and expand your reach. So some tips here. After your first student contract, you can network to find another job in your field of study. After your studies, you are eligible for the student bridging process, external non-advertised process. That is what Dagan referred to before. So some of you may be familiar with this term already, but it's an easier way, I guess we can say, to have your manager hire you on if you have been a student recently. So it's a fast track process to get you into a permanent indeterminate position. So lots of advantages for you as a student. We need to make sure we capitalize on them. Okay, next up, how can I start my career in the GC after my student job? So all workers who have previously had a student contract within the GC, Government of Canada, are eligible for student bridging. So it's an external non-advertised process. So what that means is that they have you in mind, your manager has you in mind for that position and no one else. So it wouldn't need to be advertised to the public, whereas a lot of other positions are open publicly so that anyone can apply. Even people who don't have Government of Canada experience could apply for that job. Whereas if it's the student bridging process, it's intended for you. They have you in mind specifically and will be able to appoint you to that spot. So definitely an advantage being a student and having that mechanism to be brought on permanently. Network to find opportunities. How many times can we say networking? I think it's obvious that it's important at this point. Another way to branch out and do some research would be register to the inventories of students or graduates of departments and agencies. So on the GC Students Wiki page, there's a link there. You can actually put your name down to be on the inventory for students who are actively looking for jobs. So another great tip for you. Prepare to network. Here's some tips that you should consider before networking. Or just to consider in general. Research your occupational group. So see what level you're at right now and what level you might be striving to go for. And maybe you don't know right now, that's totally fine. But a good plan to have would be to figure out your occupational group right now, what jobs you might be eligible for if you're applying to different jobs, and to see where do I want to go. If there's if you're in an AS1 and you want to be AS2, check out qualifications for an AS2 position and figure out what you might need to get there. Maybe you can volunteer on your team to help out with the AS2 roles and responsibilities to give you some of that background that you need. Sign up for Facebook groups. There is a wonderful GC Students page where there's opportunities shared. You can connect with similar colleagues who are going through similar positions as you. And there's a variety of other Facebook groups as well. We'll make sure they're shared in the chat. There are groups for policy professionals. There's groups for those in a certain city throughout throughout Canada. So if you're in a certain geographical region, you can get in touch with folks in that area. There's some for admin professionals, scientists. There's a whole slew of great Facebook groups. So make sure to check those out to see if you want to join any of them, to stay apprised of information for those specific cohorts of people. I can't move on without sharing the mentorship one. So as part of my role as the interdepartmental mentorship co-chair for the community practice, we also have a mentorship and career development Facebook page. So I encourage you to check that one out as well. It's for sharing tips on mentorship, asking general mentorship questions, and you'll receive a response by those who are more knowledgeable and have experience in the GC. So you can ask any general questions. You can also reach out to mentors for a mentorship relationship and also find out about upcoming events that we have all in relation to mentorship. Okay, next up, look on the Career Marketplace on SharePoint. So Career Marketplace is a fantastic tool to explore different jobs. This is on GC Exchange. The SharePoint and GC Exchange is interchangeable from what I understand. So I'm sure you've heard of GC Exchange before. visit the GC directory. So this is what I was referring to before, GEDS, the Government of Canada Electronic Directory. You can do searches for divisions, branches, sectors, departments, or even people that you're looking to connect with. So it's a great way to find out where you might want to work or find someone to contact. I will disclose that sometimes it's not up to date, so you may run into issues there, but I know everyone does their best to keep it updated. GC Exchange is a good spot to network during your GC student contract. Check out different groups on there. In addition to the Facebook pages, there's a whole slew of GC Exchange pages that you can access and check out. And then lastly, LinkedIn, an amazing tool for expanding your network. It's also a great way to build your brand. So another workshop that we have is on building your brand. And it really delves into more of what you need to do to set yourself up for success when it comes to your professional brand. LinkedIn is a fantastic way to do that. So as we know, on Facebook and other social media platforms, we often post regularly about what we've been up to, trips we went on, birthdays for friends or birthdays that we've attended, baby showers, weddings, all that great stuff. LinkedIn is the same thing, but for your professional accomplishments. So last week I participated in this course. I'm really proud to achieve this certification, and I post about it. Or we recently had the opportunity to attend a learning day in Sudbury with 50 fantastic public servants. It's showcasing accomplishments or activities, events that you've participated in your career, in your professional career. So it's a great way to show potential hiring managers or colleagues or whoever it is what you've been up to. It's like more interactive resume, if you will. So make sure to engage and connect with people on LinkedIn. Showcase your successes. It's not about bragging, but it's about showcasing what you've done. People don't know what you've been up to in your student contract unless you tell them. So it's a great way to storytell and share the work that you've been up to in a professional way. And then lastly, on LinkedIn, there's a fantastic page. It's called Government of Canada Job Opportunities. This is led by our colleague, Reda. He started this organically to help people find jobs. So it's an active posting of jobs that are available to you. And they're very wide ranging. Some are very specific to scientists, for example, and then some are more administrative and open to anyone. So great place to find active job opportunities and postings. So highly recommend that you check that one out. And it may help you make your way to your next opportunity. All right, we're going to do another poll. So please fill it out to the best of your ability. No worries, it's not mandatory, and it is anonymous, so we won't be able to see your answers. Would you like to start your career in the Government of Canada after your studies? Yes, no, I'm not sure. And then the second question is, do you know the professional group in which you want to start your career? Give you a moment to fill that out. All right, so it looks like most people, 59% said yes. A few people said not sure. Totally fair. There's lots of changes that the government's undergoing right now. Things are uncertain. So totally fair that you're not sure right now. Do you know the professional group in which you want to start your career? Okay, fairly even across the board. Many of you said yes. And then 27% said no, and then 27% said I'm not sure. Okay, great. We'll delve into this a little bit more, but that helps give us an idea of who we have here and the direction to go in. Cool. Thank you, Lauren. So now we'll go a bit further into networking resources and opportunities, which will also touch a lot on mentorship and mentorship opportunities available to you. We do have lots of time for Q&A at the end. I see many of you are putting in your questions, so thank you for that. Feel free to continue entering them as they come up, and we'll get to as many of them as possible at the end. Okay, so as I mentioned, I am the Interdepartmental Mentorship Co-Chair for the Community of Practice, the Mentorship Community of Practice. Essentially, it's a place that brings together folks across the GC who are working on mentorship programs. So different departments have mentorship programs that they work on and offer to their employees, and our Community of Practice brings everyone together who's working on those programs. The point of it is so that all departments and folks within the mentorship programs are not recreating the wheel, inventing new silos. We're breaking down the silos and working together. So that's part one of what we do, is bring people together, connect the dots on mentorship programs across the GC. The second thing we do is provide mentorship opportunities to employees and to mentors, to managers who are looking to find a mentee. So I did mention that the Government of Canada Facebook page. It's the GC Career Development and Mentorship page. That's one way to get involved. There's also a mentorship living library that's on the Federal Youth Network wiki page under mentorship resources. So it's an active listing of mentors who have raised their hand and dedicated their time to be a mentor. So I really encourage you to check out that list. You would be able to reach out to anyone who's in an area or field of study that interests you. If there's a manager you see in Montreal where you are, you can feel free to reach out to them, or perhaps they're at a department that you really want to work for and want to find out more. You can feel free to use that mentorship living library list for coffee chats and to reach out to mentors. They are not there to give you a job, but they're there to answer any mentorship related questions you might have. So feel free to use that, and hopefully you will have some good conversations. But of course, have to give the disclaimer, they're not there to give jobs out, but good conversations could stem from it, and you never know what opportunities might arise. So there's the link there. The presentation is posted on our wiki page for GC students. You can find all of these links through there, but the mentorship one is the one I'm referring to, that links to the GC Facebook page, our GC Exchange site, and our living library, and a couple other mentorship resources for you. And then networks and networking. So networks refer to the communities of different networks. So like Federal Youth Network, for example, GC students, that's a network within the Government of Canada. There's National Managers Community, not relevant to us right now, but will be in the near future. There's also Pride Network. There's Official Languages. There's the Human Resource Council, a variety of networks. There's various employee networks and diversity and inclusion networks, Black executives, Black employees, so on and so forth. There's a whole ton of networks that will be applicable to you. I'm sure one of them is applicable to you and of interest to you. So find out what area you'd like to get involved with and reach out. So FIN is one, youth networks. There's youth networks under FIN, or a partner of FIN, I should say, because FIN is the national network, but there's also all of the regional networks and also all of the departmental networks. So I encourage you to check out the networks within your department. There's often young professional networks within each department, and there's often a lot of the networks that I mentioned before within each department. So make sure to check out what's around you and what's available to you. If you need help or need some direction getting in contact with anyone, you can reach out to us or send me a message. Perfect. I already mentioned diversity networks, but there is the link to check out what's out there. It's overwhelming. There's a lot. Some networks are more active than others, and some might be relevant to you right now and maybe not relevant to you right now. Things can change throughout your career. For example, the National Managers Community might not be relevant to us all as students, but maybe later on in your career it could be. Learning resources. We have so many resources available for you. And they won't go away. They're always there for you. We have our recordings of all of our virtual sessions on our YouTube page. So there's a ton of resources available to you. You can access them through YouTube and watching the video, or you can also access many of them through our Spotify channel. So I find that useful if you're a busy person and you're commuting or have other things on the go. You can even listen to some of our workshops and sessions when you're on the go through the Spotify and listening as opposed to watching. There's various links here we encourage you to check out. So our career resources on our wiki page, there's tons of career resources. It touches on resume building, preparing for your interviews, so on and so forth. Virtual learning series. This is our series that takes place a couple times throughout the year in the spring and fall. We've had a variety of different topics with experts. So check out those sessions. Career Bootcamp. Maybe some of you attended Career Bootcamp if you were part of the GC in January. It happens every year in January. It's our largest event, and it is the largest conference in the GC, where it's all about you and your career. The topics change from year to year. This year we had a variety of wonderful topics: social media, communication, finding your next opportunity, the future of the GC, AI. Of course, we can't shy away from AI right now. There's a great session on that and digital competencies. So do encourage you to check out the Career Bootcamp recordings if you haven't already. And then in-person learning days. We have the Federal Youth Network hosts in-person learning days every year. The first one coming up is in April in Montreal and Quebec City. But please check out through our wiki page the upcoming event dates. There is for sure one happening near you, depending on what region you're in. So check out the dates for the city near you, and we encourage you to register. Additionally, the Canada School Public Service is a great avenue for learning. There's so many courses on there. So far, we've been really focusing on the Federal Youth Network courses and workshops, but the Canada School Public Service is a fantastic avenue for learning. There's some mandatory courses for new employees, but there's Learning Pass if you're looking to be a policy professional, if you're looking to be an HR professional. There's different Learning Paths that are set out to guide you, and there's different courses that they prescribe for that learning path. So please check that out as well. We just collaborated with Apolitical. Apolitical is sort of what FIN does, the Federal Youth Network, but on a global scale. So they offer career development and learning for public servants globally, and not just within the Government of Canada, like the Federal Youth Network does. We partnered with them, very exciting, on a course for new public servants. So there is a course available to you if you would like to do sort of an orientation, introduction to government. We do have that new course available to you. So we'll make sure that's shared with you. And I think we'll add that into the slides for next time. Okay, I've talked way too much. Degan, I'm going to ask you to please come back, and Degan's going to share mentorship opportunities for resources that are available to you for the ISEO and the EOSD programs. Thank you, Degan.
Thanks so much, Justine. So yeah, as Justine said, especially if you're a student with a disability or if you're an Indigenous student, I'll just walk you through some support programs available to help support your onboarding as well as retention. So the Indigenous Student Employment Program is intended for students who self-identify as Indigenous, and essentially is focused on providing that cultural competency lens where you will be in a program after you're hired from another department. You can participate in it as a support program. So you meet fellow Indigenous students, you get to meet mentors. You can get matched with a mentor who's Indigenous, who could help you kind of answer some questions you have around your career journey, or you can participate in kind of that formal networking program that you may not necessarily be able to find at your department. There's also events that are planned over the summer months, and just overall a great opportunity to connect, learn, and grow and support your career development. If we go to the next slide, we also have a similar program for students with disabilities. As long as you're a student under the FSWEP, co-op, or RAP program, you can also participate in both programs. It's really focused on providing resources and support to navigate your career as a person with a disability. So if you need information on workplace accommodation, how do you navigate the workplace as someone who may be potentially neurodivergent, all these potential kind of concerns you may have, we would have the opportunity to discuss them at these learning sessions. We'll have resources as well as activities that are really, really designed to help you grow, that has the disability inclusion mind at the center of it. The cool part of EOSD this year is that we launched a matching process for mentorship. So you submit a form. Once you register as a part of the program, you'll kind of outline if you want to be matched based on your disability. So if you really want a mentor that you align with, you really want to find out, how it is navigating with a specific disability in the workplace, you have a safe space to ask those questions. And then if you also prefer to be matched based on just interests or career paths, there's that possibility as well. And for EOSD, all the mentors identify as people with disabilities. So you come into it knowing that individuals are willing to share that lived experience and also share kind of what's worked for them, what hasn't worked, and also in terms of even just sharing potential, how to go about conversations around asking for accommodations can be sensitive and tricky. So we have a lot of great mentors that are able to help navigate and guide you in that direction. If we go to the next slide, how can you go about registering for both of these programs? So there is a registration form required. So if you click the link on the screen, it will lead you to the registration form. You do need to have access to a GC network to be able to access it, or it can be completed by your hiring manager or your HR specialist when you get hired. But if not, you as a student can register yourself. Once you register, you'll receive a welcome email and then instructions on how to participate on the different program components. So yeah. Hope you all take advantage of those resources as well as supports that are available. And now I will turn it over to Lauren to go through some announcements.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been fantastic information coming out. I'm very happy with how the session is going so far. So just before we go into our Q&A session, we are going to just go over some quick little announcements. They're barely even announcements. Honestly, we've just got a few QR codes and a few things that we want to make sure that you guys get access to, so we can go to the next slide. And we are first going to share the QR code for the Facebook group that was mentioned earlier. I believe the link was shared in the chat as well, just to make sure that you are able to access the group if you would like to. It's a great resource. Sometimes we post our events on it. You'll see if you join the group that there are students in there trying to network for themselves, posting their experience, posting what they're looking for. Sometimes there's managers that post that they are looking for students as well. So it's a really cool group to just be a part of and just see how other students in the government are kind of navigating and also presenting themselves. It's really cool to see examples from your own peers. So on our next slide, we have a couple more QR codes where we are sharing our newsletters. So, like we've said before, you can access this slideshow on our GC Wiki, but if not, you can scan the QR codes here. I'll give you a moment to do that if you want to sign up for either newsletter. Like I said, these QR codes and links are found all over our GC Wiki, so if you don't have time to right now, that's okay. You will also have a chance to if you explore those pages. So we can go to our final QR code that we would like to share. So just following us on our social networks. So it's a great way to stay involved. We share a lot of our information out, as Justine and Degan both mentioned. Information sharing is very important in the government of Canada, and through our social medias, we found that it's just a great way to get the word out. So there is our final QR code. And before we move to the Q&A session, we do have one final poll that we would like to share. So that is coming up now. So this information is not shared with our participants, so there is no worries at all. You can answer as honestly as you would like. It's just some information for us. It helps us know if we're really getting to what our target audience would like to hear about, you know? If there's anything else that you would like to hear about, please send us a message. You know, like we've said, we are fairly active on our social medias, our email, everything. So feel free to reach out, and we really appreciate the responses to the poll right now. So I'll just give another second for if anybody else is thinking about their response. If not, then I'll end the poll in a second. All right. Thank you all so much for that. So with that, before we start the Q&A portion, I would like to take a moment to thank our wonderful speakers from today, Dagan and Justine. It was fantastic information that you both shared. We're really lucky to have you both in the session right now. So it's now time for our Q&A session. Please share your comments and questions through the Q&A button. If you see that there are a couple of questions in there right now and you have one question that you want to make sure that we get to, just click the little thumbs up on the side and we will be going by the most voted questions first, and we'll just move through as many as we can. Yeah, so let me pull that up now and I'll just load. All right. So for our first question, it's a bit of a big one, but that's okay. So it says a few months ago, there's an announcement saying the federal government is going to reduce by 40,000 employees. Any updates on the student and new grad side of things? So I know that's a very big question. A lot of people are very curious to know information about this. So we can't specifically touch on workforce adjustment or anything, especially because it's so different between each and every department. But if anyone wants to try and just give a little bit of advice on maybe how to navigate the current hiring climate for students and new grads, I don't know who wants to take that first.
I can
Dagan?
get started working at the Public Service Commission too. A big part of our role, we're responsible for student programs, and that's a valid concern that we've been hearing across the board in outreach that we do to students. And it's not to say that I'd acknowledge that it does exist, right? That there are going to be limited positions for students. However, the government is always hiring, right? And there's always going to be student jobs. And in that sense, it may not essentially look exactly the way you would like it to look, right? So there may be more departments that are in a more hiring phase than others. So for example, defense, Canada Border Services, I'm thinking also the Canadian Coast Guard. Those are departments that would generally be hiring. But also something to keep in mind, and what we've been telling departments as well, is that students are a great way to renew your workforce. So we're perpetuating that message as well. And I'll share a personal anecdote as well. Like I started my career at this kind of same with the same environment. So in between 2010 and 2012, it was the same climate of budget cuts, and it was a lot more difficult to find student jobs. And this is where networking really comes in, right? So right now, you're currently working a student job. That's check mark. So use that opportunity to write it in your resume that you already completed a student job. Use LinkedIn, use the other Facebook groups and the tools that Justine had shared as a way to market yourself and say, I've already worked a government job. I already have a security clearance. These are the tools and these are the experience I bring to your team, and actively market yourself. You'll have to be a little more active in your job search than before, because the job market isn't the same, but there are plenty of opportunities out there. It's just going to be a little harder to find. So I want to give you that hope that government works in cycles, and just because the cycle is now in terms of the downturn in terms of hiring doesn't mean that it's not going to be an upturn again. So just be a little bit less picky also with your job opportunities that you're looking for, because you may not necessarily find your dream job. It may be something that will be a stepping stone towards your next opportunity. So that's a long-winded way of saying, there'll still be opportunities out there. You just have to be a little more strategic on where you go to find them, and also be open to different opportunities.
Thank you for that response, Dagan. That was perfect. It was very realistic while still sharing some realistic information about that there is still hope, but sometimes we do have to kind of change our approach, 100%. I think we'll move to the next question. So it is another question about WFA. So I know that's a little bit of a tricky situation, but someone's asking, what is the formal bridging process for students and how does workforce adjustment impact this? So we are going to be speaking more in depth about the student bridging process in our next event called Plan Your Career. So we have that event launched right now. So if you go to our GC Wiki page, you will be able to see that event and register for it right now. So we go very in depth into student bridging there. But if anyone wants to give just a bit of information about that right now, and maybe just a touch on how WFA might affect that.
I can speak from an HR perspective. So, student bridging is essentially a non-advertised process, right? So it means that a manager doesn't have to go through that same steps in terms of that direct kind of promotion of the opportunity being posted on GC Jobs, for example. A manager can look at the experience that you've displayed or demonstrated as a student and align that with a position that they have available and then offer you that position. Something to keep in mind about student bridging process is it varies between departments. So every department has a different process on how to manage student bridging. Of course, with WFA, it's understandable that there will be less non-advertised opportunities, but that's not to say it's impossible, right? So it's important to have that conversation with your manager. If you're looking for something longer term, be open to having that conversation, and your manager may not have an opportunity within their team, but they may be able to connect you with other teams that have more immediate needs and have the funding to support those immediate needs, and your skill sets align. Something else to keep in mind about student bridging, and I didn't know this as a student, is they don't always lead to indeterminate opportunities, right? So when I was a student, it was the same context where I was bridged into a term position. Was it something I wanted? No, I would have hoped for something indeterminate, but at the time that was the only thing my manager could offer. So it's that opportunity to have a conversation and be open-minded. It could potentially be a casual, it could be a short-term contract. When I was being bridged, it was my contracts were 2 months at a time for 2.5 years. So keep that in mind that it's not always going to be a direct indeterminate opportunity. Completely understandable that it does add chaos to your life and that instability, but it is an employment opportunity and a stepping stone towards once you are a term, you're able to apply to internal jobs. There's light at the end of the tunnel is kind of what I wanted to say is that you have to think of different ways of navigating it. Don't get all your hopes into expecting an indeterminate opportunity after you graduate, considering the current context.
Definitely. Just for if anyone is curious, so indeterminate just means I kind of explain it as full-time forever. You can stay in that position for as long as you would like. You are permanent. That is your position. You have a box. You have a spot that you live on that team. Whereas Degan was sharing that she was bridged in to a term position. So that's a temporary position that they either already had and they were looking to fill, or I don't know if in some cases they can create terms. Like Degan shared, it is different depending on each department. I was really lucky. I was bridged in indeterminately, but that's because my manager had an open admin position on her team. That won't always happen in the teams that you end up with through your student work contract, but it is really, really helpful. Like Degan said, if you take that term or that casual, if you can, because it opens up your doors to be able to apply to those jobs that you weren't able to apply to when you were a student. So that was awesome. Justine, do you have anything you want to share? Or if not, we can move to the next question.
I will share one thing. So all that information was fantastic. Something else that I've been hearing a lot from senior leaders when folks are asking advice for how to navigate WFA, workforce adjustment. A lot of senior leaders who are more wise and have full wisdom from being through this themselves have said, be patient. Like that's the overarching advice that's being shared right now. Be patient. stay where you are if you have to, and then wait about a year, 18 months, and then start looking around. So what's going to happen is there's thousands and thousands of people who will be taking the early retirement incentive. And that means it's going to be crazy shuffle with positions, right? When a bunch of people retire, it means others need to fill those positions. And what does that mean for us? That other opportunities open up. So even though it seems like a lot of doom and gloom, in a few months, year, 18 months, there could be a lot of opportunities for us. So I wanted to share that because I thought that was a hopeful way and positive way of looking at it, is that even if you're not getting what you're looking for exactly right now, there will be a lot of opportunities opening up. So it goes for all of us, not just for students, but all of us, to be a bit patient right now and stick through it.
Totally. Yep, that reminds me of kind of we're playing chess right now. We're not playing checkers. It's the marathon, not the sprint. I know even whenever I was trying to become an FSWEP student, I applied for probably 3 different years just to get into FSWEP, and I was never even selected. I think I was on my fourth year of trying to become an FSWEP student when I was selected. So it can take a really long time. I have learned that the government works in its own kind of time zone. I don't even know, but it does take a little while, and that's okay. And we just kind of have to, like Justine said, practice our patience a little bit. That's something that I'm working on personally. So, our next question is, how can I talk to my manager about staying on after my term ends? So, maybe we can look at some like strategies of bringing difficult topics up if we feel a little uncomfortable or a little worried.
That's a great question. I can start us off. Um, First thing would be try not to, I know it's easier said than done, try not to be shy about talking to your manager. We're all people, even though they're senior, have more experience than us, they're people too, right? So try to remove that fear of the seniority or fear that they're so much better than us. They're just people too. That helped me to think about that. It was it's sort of something that helped me like be able to approach management. We're all people. We all have our own lives, and hopefully that makes it a little bit easier to talk to them. But be open with how you're feeling. So um, be open with them. They don't know what you want if you want to stay on unless you communicate that with them. So it's very important that you do mention that. And I think even in that question, that's something that you might be thinking of doing. The PMA process, the performance management agreement process or performance management assessment process, is a great way to have conversations with your managers. I do know for students, it's called something else, and I believe it's like a midterm review. It's a bit far away from me now that it's been almost 14 years, but I do remember having those midterm check-ins with my manager. How are things going? What can be improved? Is there anything that you might need to improve on, and give that feedback? And that's an opportunity for you to share feedback as well if there's anything that you're wanting to share. So use those check-ins to say what you need to say and to ask the questions. That's the best time to do it in a more formal way. But I do encourage you to have informal discussions with your managers as well. Sometimes you might have a like a bi-weekly check-in with them or a monthly check-in with them. Use that time for these conversations as well. It will be no surprise to them that you're thinking about your future. It shows that you're thinking of the right things and that you're doing the right things if you are questioning these types of things and are looking out for yourself. So with anything, it will be met with respect and admiration that you're looking out for your own career. So don't be shy about that. Sometimes it is hard for us to have conversations with managers. Not all managers are perfect. A lot of managers get thrown into management positions and they might not even be ready for it. So we may be dealing with some challenging managers or managers that are harder to talk to. We've been there. Some of us have been there and understand. So if you are facing that type of challenge, you can also talk to someone else. If it's a really serious situation, you can always talk to their manager. If you find that there's some pushback or that it's really uncomfortable talking to them or they're not meeting your needs and expectations, there's different ways to go about that. You can involve HR if you need to. So I really, truly hope it doesn't get to that point for you, but it could be the case that you need some support from HR or others to have those conversations. So I hope that helps a little bit. So just to recap, use your midterm check-ins or whatever the name is for that now. If you're in an indeterminate position, it is PMA, the performance management assessment process. We have those at the beginning of the year, mid-year, and end of year. Those are a great way to have those types of conversations, but then also more informally during check-ins that you have meetings, say, hey, can you stay on for a minute? I just want to talk to you about something, and go for it there. Let them know you want to stay. If you want to stay, they won't know if you don't tell them. Express your interest and express your eagerness to stay on. Managers are there to help you. That is the role. So I hope that you will have a great manager in helping you find your next role.
That was great, Justine. Thank you. I think we can probably move to the next question. So, how can I make a strong impression even if my term is short?
That's a
So,
really great
yeah.
question. I think back on the times I've had students as supervisors and as a supervisor, and the things that often make them stand out is just that curiosity and asking questions, being engaged, being on time, being professional. I think a lot of those, it's not, I think sometimes people get in their mind that you have to come into the job and you have to know everything, right? And oftentimes, even myself in a senior role, do I have background in certain areas? Yes, but I knew nothing about my current role before I joined, right? So each team member is in a position of learning. So just see yourself as that team member that's willing to learn, ask questions, you're engaged, um, ask for help on different projects, and don't wait too long to ask for help or clarification. And oftentimes, just being a pleasant person to be around, oftentimes is a great it's a great addition to a team. So you often underestimate that just engagement, how much those interpersonal skills have a larger impact than what you actually get done. So oftentimes you're not expected to change the world, right? The government is a huge machine. Even us as team members, it takes a while for things to get approved, and they may come back down, and there'll be a lot of different hands in the pot where it may feel like your contributions aren't as visible. But know that, as long as you complete your part and you're doing all the things I said before, staying professional, showing up on time, being consistent, all those things are going to make you stand out and make you memorable. And that's oftentimes the things I think back on what's made students memorable, are often those almost intangibles and transferable skills that are oftentimes underrated. And you have to remember that the academic environment and the workplace are drastically different, right? In school, you're expected to take notes, and there's a scheduled time to ask questions, and it's very regimented, and it's not necessarily like that in the workplace. So the advice Justine provided as just seeing everyone as human is the great way to interact with people in the workplace. And oftentimes that is a way to make you memorable. And lastly, getting involved in different networks. So if your work may not necessarily be aligned with where you see yourself or your career, or you feel like you need to be challenged, get involved with your local young professionals network, or, social club on your floor. There's so many opportunities to just meet different people. And I recognize that's not everyone's personality. So remember, you don't have to be someone you're not, but try to find those little ways to do the intangibles and not necessarily kind of essentially make the work best of your workplace and your work environment. I don't know if that was helpful.
That was super helpful. I really liked the point that you said about even just like the energy and the personality you bring. I know I see a lot of jokes sometimes about the personality hire. Sometimes I feel like it because I'm outgoing and I love to chat. But your personality,
Well, Lauren, you cut
while
off
being
a little bit
professional,
there.
oh no, I was just
I
making
don't
a
know if
joke
it's
about
just for
being a
me.
personality hire. Can you hear me now? Yeah, okay, perfect. I was just sharing that I love that you shared the information about showing your personality kind of while still maintaining your professionalism. It's very important in the government. Everyone sees it as this big, serious thing sometimes, but it is important sometimes to be able to be yourself while kind of maintaining that line between being professional and showing who you are, 100%. Justine, do we want to move to the next question?
Yeah, I'm really, really loving this. I think one more thing to both of your perfect answers would be following through on things that you commit to. I was reflecting on this question too, and the people who have made a very strong impression are those who say they're going to do something and actually do it without having to be reminded. So, sounds simple, but is actually quite hard. If you put your hand up for something, make sure you follow through, or at least say what issues you ran into. I really respect those on our team who say, "Yep, I can do this," and then actually do it without having to be asked. So I just wanted to add that little part.
100%, 100%. All right, so we are doing great for time. We still have a couple questions left. So our first one is, how do I maintain a mentorship relationship after my student term ends? So I understand that's definitely a concern of, hey, I was in the government for a minute. My term is over. Like, kind of what do I do? How do we handle that situation?
That's a great question and really shows that you're thinking ahead. Um, Fairly simple, but it takes work. Just keep in touch with those that you've connected with. We all lose touch with colleagues and friends over time. That's totally natural and normal. But if you can do a bit of the legwork and keeping in touch with people, just checking in. Hey, how's it going? I'm curious with how that project went, or how's your daughter doing? That type of thing. Send a LinkedIn message, send an email, touch base. Especially like we want to make sure it's genuine too. Don't just fire off messages because you think you need to. Make sure it's genuine. Keep in touch with the contacts that you had a lasting impression of as well, and those that you'd like to work with in the future. So, sounds simple, but does take time. Check in, keep the relationship strong if you can. Ask someone to go for coffee, ask someone to go for lunch. Um, and secondly, like stay connected as much as you can through learning opportunities and events. So, Federal Youth Network events and workshops you can attend even if you're not a Government of Canada employee. If you're an aspiring employee, you can attend our sessions and events. So maybe there would be a connection that you make from that, or something you learn about new hiring mechanisms or new resources that we're sharing. So stay engaged and active if you're interested in finding a position or opportunity.
Totally.
Tegan, anything else to add, or Lauren?
Nope, you covered that perfectly, Justine.
That was perfect. I love it. Let's go to the next. So, what is the best way to network in a virtual or hybrid work environment? So, this is something that definitely came up during COVID and post. So, it's an interesting new thing that Finnick adventured through, which I think we came out the other side a little bit stronger in our virtual things because virtual is awesome for inclusivity and opening events up to more people. Justine, I don't know if you want to touch on that question for the best way to network in a virtual
Yeah,
or hybrid environment, and then we can go to
yeah.
Dagon after.
I think it is largely related to the last question, like keep in touch with people and stay connected. You might be in a remote office where your team is in Ottawa. That's often the case. Someone's working from Montreal office, but their team's in Ottawa. So you often feel disconnected. I do feel bad for folks in that position. Our Fin team is kind of similar. We're all across Canada. So I'm in Ottawa, Lauren's in PEI. We have folks in Montreal, Quebec City, Alberta, Hamilton, Toronto. So we're all over the place. So we stay connected virtually all the time. We have chats going through Slack, MS Teams. Slack is really, really a useful tool for teams. So there's so many ways with technology to stay connected and feel like you're uh, touching base and connected. Lauren and I have like hundreds of messages a day on Slack and work related, but also connecting on a personal level. And we feel like we're working together, even though we're not in the same physical office. So thankful for technology. There's so many ways to stay connected. So check out some tools that you might be able to use. I'm thinking more of like a team perspective right now, but if you're thinking more networking with colleagues, again, it would be getting involved in communities, getting involved in employee networks, young professional networks, volunteer your time if you have capacity, or even just attend the events. It doesn't mean you need to organize the event, attending an event. That way, you're meeting similar folks in the same position as you. Maybe they're students, maybe they just got hired in. meeting like-minded colleagues and making those relationships. So I guess use the tools that are available to you and attend events, workshops, learning opportunities, get involved to meet other people in a virtual or hybrid way.
Totally. That message definitely resonated with me. My head office, before I was with Finn, when I was with Indigenous Services Canada, my head office was in a different province because I was hired during COVID. It was a very strange time. Things were a little bit different. Unfortunately, we don't have quite as much flexibility as we did. I feel very lucky that I got the opportunity that I did, but it was really hard working from a different province. I was freshly out of university, like very used to spending a lot of time with my peers and interacting, playing sports, being a part of clubs and stuff. And then all of a sudden, I'm just in my house 24/7, you know? So it's definitely hard to feel like you can connect in a meaningful way, especially with new people outside of your team, because you're like, when am I ever going to meet these people? But a part that I found really helpful was volunteering. So I know that volunteering with different networks, volunteering within your team, volunteering even just in the community, you know? Sometimes we like to focus all of our energy on work, but sometimes you don't want to live for your work. Sometimes you want to work so that way you can live outside of work, you know? So focusing on kind of networking outside of work can also help your work life. You know, it helps balance you out, it helps give you different skills that you can then bring into the workplace, 100%. Do we want to add anything else, Dagan?
I would just say follow up on your networking. So, anyone you do meet and you're really interested in their work, use the technology and the tools that Justine mentioned, and even Lauren, where you're going to different networks. If there's anyone that does interest you, follow up on those connections. And you can do it very easily virtually now, where you could set up a coffee chat virtually and connect and have that time to have that dedicated resources to make sure that you're not just people that are passing each other by, that you're building some of those relationships beyond the initial interaction. So that would be a way to kind of move from networking and maybe potentially develop a mentorship relationship, right? So there's so many different ways. You just really have to find the way that works for you, that's authentic to you. And it can maybe be a more passive approach, or it could be a more targeted approach. It all depends on kind of what you want to get out of it. So yeah.
Definitely. That makes tons of sense. I love it. So I think we have time for one or two more questions. So first we have, how can I stand out as a student when everyone around me seems more experienced? This kind of speaks to a little bit of the imposter syndrome that some people might be feeling. I know I feel it sometimes. I'm like, how am I here? I should not be in this meeting. What am I doing here? So how can you kind of stand out when you feel like that person in the room?
I
And how
think
can you push through those feelings, you know?
Yeah, it's hard. Like even 14 years in, I still feel that, right? And I think what helps me is being prepared. So going into each meeting or each kind of conversation, reading up on the materials. So knowing kind of don't go into things blind. So if you can look up things on the internal web page, for example, or maybe even before the meeting, ask proactively ask if there's documents that need to be read or how you're expected to participate. Those are all great ways to kind of increase your knowledge, but also build kind of that understanding and maybe reduce some anxiety of going into the meeting. So knowing what your level of participation will be. So for example, oftentimes as a student, I was asked to be a note taker. So like, okay, what does that entail? Is there a template I need to follow? Kind of just, or is it free kind of reign? Okay, I can figure it out. But finding tools to help support you before you kind of get into those situations would be helpful. Another way is also just speaking to colleagues. So, speaking to people that you find that are more experienced than you or you deem kind of more experienced, just kind of have that conversation with them to find out what helped them feel more confident in their role. I think sometimes is really helpful. But for me, honestly, it's preparation. So being prepared. I love speaking notes. So even before today's session, I took time aside to prepare a general idea of speaking notes. Even though I've talked about these topics multiple times before, I'm prepared and I have a backup plan in case, my mind goes blank for any given reason. So find what kind of that issue is for you and then find tools to help support you in addressing what that kind of concern is. So I don't know, Justine, if you have anything else to add. or Lauren?
I love that and relate with that. Just something else I was reflecting on when you were talking, Degan, was that everyone was in that position at one point, right? So it comes back to like being human. Let's understand each other, be empathetic, be emotionally aware. Um, Maybe we've been in the government for 14 years. We were a student before, so we can relate. So don't always feel like everyone's better than you because they have more experience and they're older. That's not the case at all. You all have your own unique skill sets to bring to the table, and we do need you. Something else is that like those who are more senior maybe won't be the best with technology or AI. So figure out what skills you have that they don't have. You probably have a lot of skills that they don't have. So bringing that to the table and saying, "Hey, I'm really good in this program, or I'm really good with AI. I can show you." Kind of like reverse mentoring in a way. They, as in senior management, managers, leaders, we have so much to learn from students as well. So figure out what it is that you have that they don't have.
I love that. I love that point. I love both of the what can I bring to the table that my superior might not have, and also being prepared. I think that is so important and sometimes gets overlooked of like, ah, why do I feel so nervous in this meeting? Maybe if I had taken the time to prepare, even for just 15 minutes, just to refresh myself, get myself in the headspace, then those first 5 minutes of the meeting I'm not going to be so nervous that I don't even hear what's going on, because sometimes that is going to happen and it's a reality of the situation and you kind of have to push through and then, for the next time. This was a fantastic session, everyone. I am very happy to have been a part of it. We only have 3 minutes remaining, so I don't think we have any time for another, um, question, but I do have some things I'm going to share in the chat really quick. So just bear with me. I'm just sharing some. Actually, that was already shared. That is so silly of me. Does anyone have any last words that they'd like to share, Degan or Justine?
Thank you so much for such great questions. They're so interesting and got me really thinking. So I really, really hope that you guys benefited from today's session and know that, as Justine said, you bring so much value to the public service. So keep doing what you're doing, and we're really excited to have you as a part of our larger GC family.
Totally agree. Echo that, Degan. I wish we had more time. I was surprised it went so quick. If you wanted to connect with us, please connect with us on LinkedIn, and happy to answer any other questions that you might have or connect later. So thanks and best of luck to all of you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks.
And I hope everyone enjoyed the session. As they said, reach out if you have any questions and review the videos on YouTube if you wish and check out our resources. And we hope to see you at the next event, Plan Your Career in April. So check out GC Wiki to register. And thank you so much, Justine and Dagan. I really appreciate your guys' insights today. Hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Goodbye.
Bye.